Welcome back to Wealth Mavericks, the podcast where we help doctors unlock the secrets to building generational wealth. And today, we're talking about the battles and the blessings that come with building a business that was once just a dream.
You have to be willing to change who you are to be better for the people you're serving and helping.
Any journey you take, there are going to be pitfalls and detours and challenges. But if you sit still, waiting and thinking about all those, you're never going to get anywhere. Welcome back to the podcast. As always, we're so glad you're here. And I'm excited to be joined again today by Bob Wolf, the boss man at Terra Firma. And today I'm going to invite Bob to share with us some reflections on the realities of building a business. And not just any business, but one that fulfills a long-term vision, is mission-driven, and that sets out to break the mold and do things differently. Terra Firma's come a long way, and there's a long way we still want to go. But as we like to talk about around here, it's important sometimes to take a pause and reflect on where you've been and where you're going. So, Bob, I know you've shared the story before on this podcast, but as a refresher or for our newer listeners, can you tell us a little bit about the vision you had for Terra Firma and what was the driving force behind it?
Yeah. Thanks, Erin, for having me again. It's, I think as kids, we always have these big dreams. And as we get into our teenage years, we get into college, we get into our young adult years, some people keep these dreams, and sometimes these dreams change to other dreams. And sometimes life happens and the dreams just kind of dissipate. And it just whether that's good or bad in the situation. That's in my situation, I have always been very focused on wanting to be a proactive, productive, solution-oriented type person. I wanted to make a difference. And I liked finance and I liked talking to people. And so what was the best way to do that would be go into financial services. And that was the pathway I went. And I didn't have my 4-year degree at the time, so that really limited me to which organizations that I could go start that process with. And so I found the organization, I went through the process, and I learned really quick. Looking around, I'm like, man, we're all being taught the same thing, but she's awesome. She is so eloquent. She's going to kill it in this business. He's got an amazing smile. Look at that guy's hair, right? I'm like, what the heck how am I going to separate myself from these people, right? We're all being learned the same thing. And so it for me, as I started building and going in and talking to potential clients and then clients and going through this, I started, listening more, being intentional in my listening. And we're always taught to be active listeners. But I think there's a difference from actively listening and being intentional in the listening to create that solution, to be proactive, to be able to help somebody when you don't know how to do that. Mm-hmm. And I was young. I was, in my mid-20s. So, at the time I had hair. I wasn't gray, right? I grew a goatee, so I looked older, So I did certain things because I didn't think that people would actually listen to me. And the reality is I didn't have self-confidence in that somebody would listen to me. So that kind of drove me, if we're honest, that drove me to want to continue to learn and be intentional and have solutions rather than just hear the word no. And because I always knew that somebody else was doing the yes. And so that I was hungry. And so I learned and I read and I just kept absorbing like a sponge. And Joe likes to say, I'm an overnight success. It just took 2 decades. Right. And I think that's business in itself. Right. I think that's the evolution of learning with that dream is that, yeah, we always hear about the people that the dream just kind of happened. Right. But Maxim Gladwell came out with a book called The 10,000 Hour Rule. in his in one of his books. And the 10,000 hour rule, he used examples of Bill Gates and Steve Jobs or Kobe Bryant, people who all of a sudden are successful at a certain age, but you don't realize that all the work they took to get to that expertise, so to speak. And some people, it takes that 10,000 hours longer than others. But the reality is that kind of hit home when I read that. I'm like, okay, so how do I get there? What do I need to do? And so, I failed. And so I had to go become an employee, and I had to work a job with the mindset that I'm still going to learn. I'm still going to take a job that puts me in a position to where I can learn new things and I can continue to evolve, to be that proactive, productive, and solution-oriented person to make that difference. Until I finally got to a point in end of 2015, early 2016, where I made that jump again. Now, married, 3 kids, in private school. So I thought that was the easiest way to start a business again.
Wow.
It's stupid. But there's never a good time until the time today, right? Like we've talked about. What's the best time to plant a tree? Today. Yeah, if you haven't planted one, today's a great day. Right. And so that's kind of the process I took. And as I met with in 2007, when I started working with physicians, I started, meeting them the way I was taught and trained to meet them. But then I learned really quickly that they really had other concerns. They had other needs, and I wasn't listening to those. And so I snapped out of my training, if you will, that the industry trained you, and I started listening. And I started realizing that they didn't care about really anything other than the thing of taxes, their biggest expense. I'm working hard. I'm successful. I make a lot of money. I just don't feel like it. All these little buzzwords and these things that started coming to the forefront. I was like, oh, so maybe I should start focusing on taxes. And then if I focus on taxes, and that's their most expensive line item, then that creates more cash flow. So then they can feel like they're being a little more successful, but maybe they don't know where their money's going. So maybe I should be more mindful in helping them to understand where their money is going. And so I built this dream of, I want to be a one-stop shop. I want to be the solution, and I want my client, at the time, my client, to come to me and I help them with everything. Nobody does that in our industry, right? At the level that is, you're not worth $50 million, $100 million, the family office level. And so that was hard because I was going down a pathway that nobody goes down. But I was part of an organization in 2007 that was a membership organization, and I saw the value of membership. I was able to call a doctor, and the gatekeeper, all I had to say is, hey, this is Bob with blah, blah, blah organization. They're like, okay, no, 1 second. He's finishing up with the patient. I'd get right to the doctor. Like, whoa, hang on a second. And that was the value of the membership, right? It built the trust. And so I knew that if I ever built this, it'd have to be a membership structure so there was this reciprocal trust. Right. And a membership is where 2 parties, organizations, give and take of each other to the collective benefit of everyone, right? Not just the individual, but the collective of everyone. And so how can I utilize experience of other members to help this particular member who has a concern or an issue that's really similar to that one? So I started focusing on physicians because I felt it was more of a ministry for me. And I felt that there was more of a connectivity with physicians because think about it. You spend up a decade of your life to go learn to serve people. What other industry does that besides pastors or priests or, people in the religious? Right. So no matter what, if you're a dermatologist or a plastic surgeon, you're still there to serve somebody, and you have to serve them in the best way in order for you to be compensated back. So I'm like, we're both ministries. And so I don't have to try to teach the value of servitude. All I have to do is just be myself and get right into the weeds because we already have that human connectivity and that spirit of service. right? And so that's why we started focusing on physicians and kind of building this out and moving it forward. And the key for Terra Firma really is just listening. And it's that evolution. And this is what's hard about business. Besides the risk of going into business and being hard, you have to be willing to change who you are to be better for the people you're serving and helping. And so it's leave the ego at the door, leave the pride at the door, but you can't just do that because you need the ego and pride because that's what kind of pushes you forward as well. But there's a balance. And so what I realized was if I stopped evolving, if I stopped improving membership, we would start deteriorating. The value, I mean, think about it this, and this as a physician, I learned this when I had surgery, and it was an open wound, and a nurse would come in and scrape away the dry blood and allow it to bleed because that is what allowed it to heal more. And that was painful. That was not happy times. But the benefit was a quicker healing process. And that's kind of what business is like sometimes. You got to scrape away the stuff that is painful and you have to go through that. And that's what change is. And then as you start building more people on your team, employees, and you're building out your team, now you're dealing with different personalities and people who don't like change and people who are okay with change, but is too much change, right? And it's painful. And then you have this kind of evolution of watching this growth and you're building a culture. And that culture ends up being the driving force of the organization. It's now you're hiring to the culture. You're not hiring the skill level of the people. Can you hire people that fit your culture? And if the answer is yes, the skill level will just fall in line. Right. And that's essentially what we've gotten to that point. But we say it all the time in our sessions, in our meetings, Erin, is that every 90 days, we're a new organization. We're evolving, we're growing because we're forcing that. We're requiring that. We're building it. We're putting it in play till we break it so we can fix it, build it, put it in play, break it. And that is how business evolves. That's how we evolve. Because if we didn't do that, we'd all still be sitting around as cavemen and women looking at this fire going, what are we going to do with this? Right?
Yeah.
But think about that's how medicine works. That's how technology works. That's how everything works, is that it all evolves from what the previous people have done in that painful decisions and the hard focus in that. And then you evolve from that. And so we're being intentional in that. And it's sometimes really frustrating, specifically to our members, because then sometimes it feels like, man, what's going on? What's going on is we're trying to be better and better and better for you. We're trying to do more than what the average industry is trying to do. We're trying to do more than what the top of the industry is doing because you deserve it.
And listening to your story and your history and when you first got started in the financial industry and you're looking around and people make really good money in the financial industry. And if you just follow the path and the cookie cutter, there's money to be had. You could have just gone down that path and made a very nice living for your sweet family and called it a day. But for you, it was more than that. Like you said, it was a ministry. It was a calling to do something different. But it's not easy to do something different. And so, I imagine even a couple years ago, you couldn't have dreamed where, you had this vision, yes, but you can't predict what is 10 or 20 steps ahead. You take one step at a time. So looking back on just how far Terra Firma has come in the last few years, what has surprised you the most or challenged you the most?
Well, I think the biggest thing that I understood, that I knew that if I looked at other people who were successful, not one of them did it by themselves. They all had a team. They all had people involved, right? And so I knew that was the first thing I had to give up, was the understanding that I'm going to need more people involved to help. And then I kind of became addicted to it, to be honest with you. I love bringing people on. and I wish we could bring on more people quicker, but we just, you need to have the cash flow to pay for it, because
Right.
this is not a ministry. It's not a nonprofit, right? People got to put food on the table.
Right.
Well, that was weird, whatever. But for me, it was a dream. It was a vision. I knew it could happen. I just didn't know when. And that was the really hard thing, is not knowing, because I've got a spouse who trusted and believed in me. But yeah, of course, there's doubt, right? We made sacrifices, right? We made, through this process, we made sacrifices so my wife could stay home with our kids, and just kind of be against the grain. But the deciding factor here, Erin, was none of this was my doing. This was all God's. This is God's business. And so in 2016, when I went out on my own, I fell flat on my face. And I basically, in prayer, had heard it someplace, read it someplace, that if you give up what you're trying to do and just give it to God, He'll give you back what He wants you to have. So far, I was building what I wanted to have, what my dream was. And so I gave it with the fear that it was going to be something totally different. But here's the deal I made with God. Yeah, I'm making a deal with God, right? Okay. But the deal with God was, look, you know me. So you need to make this very obvious. If you're opening doors for me, it needs to be a garage door open, right? It can't be like a crack, because I know the devil creeps in, right? So it needs to be extremely obvious. So I'm going to follow you. Whatever you say, I'm going to do. But I just need you to be obvious, so I'm not going down following what I don't think is, ends up being the right pathway. And that really, honestly, Erin, was the factor that made all of this okay. Because I knew God would not just leave us flailing. I knew there would be success. And by building this business while I had my kids at home, my primary focus was always my kids. Made it to all their practices, made it to all their games. They were priority. I did not work on the weekends. I don't do anything on Sundays. That was always the priority, with the mindset, when they're out as young adults, whatever that is, then I can spend the time and focus on the business. God will reap that reward, because He gave me kids, and that's my ministry first. Right. And I tried to be very mindful and thoughtful in the prioritization of that. And I believe that's why God is blessing Terra Firma and the members, as our involvement in this evolution of what this is going to look like, because of the order that we've put Him and the people in our lives that He's put in our lives in that right order.
You mentioned the overnight success thing, because from the outside, it does look like that. Like, wow, Terra Firma has grown really fast, but it's because of the 2 decades of faithfulness that you put in. And I do believe, not all of our members are believers, and that's fine, but we are open about the fact that we do believe that this is ordained. And, God brought Joe into your life and Joe into my life, and then brought us all together. And we all have very similar stories of just like taking those steps and being faithful and knowing that there is something big for me here. And I have a gift that I have to share. And a lot of our members have said that too. Like, I feel like God put Terra Firma in my path.
Yeah.
And
we
again,
hear that often.
We do. It is so moving. And so on the hardest days, it's like, we're doing something very special here.
Yeah.
I want to shift a little bit to talk about our members, because now we serve quite a wide array of them. And Megan and I have talked, she and I we have 5 coaches on our team. We're growing, but she and I serve the largest, group of our members. And we have talked about, it's become clear what makes a very good member and what makes not as good of a member. And you touch all of them. So from your perspective, what are the qualities that our best members share?
Yeah. I will say, and this is really hard for a lot of people, but I would say the top quality is someone who can make a decision. I can make a decision. I'm not going to waffle around. And we're working with scientists, right? And a scientist doesn't make a decision until they've investigated, right? There's a hypothesis, and they do all the testing and everything to come out with the answer. But that's not the reality of life.
Right.
Right. And that's certainly not the reality of business. And if we sat around and tried to think of everything that we possibly could do for a member, we would not be out there working and solving member issues. We'd still be trying to figure all this out.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said before, we need to build it and we need to put it in play. And we need it to break. We need to listen to our members and allow them. And so that's the key quality. First key quality is I can make a decision. Because without a decision, you're going to waffle and everything. And these are your goals. So if you can't make a decision about your goals, how in the world can we support and help you?
Mm-hmm.
It makes it really hard. So we're spending all of our time trying to drag you to your own goals. Can't do it. Can't do it. You should be pulling us, right? Guys, we got to go to this next one. And it should be us like, okay, hang on, we got to finish this step first, right? We got to take the first step in the marathon before we hit the finish line, right? Mm-hmm. And so that is really the first priority, in my opinion.
That's good. Because the most successful people in life are fast decision makers. And it doesn't mean that you're shooting from the hip and just being dumb about it. Do your due diligence to a point. But as you said, if we were just sitting here thinking about all the ways, or sitting here thinking about all the things that could go wrong, the best things in life, relationships, businesses, any journey you take, there are going to be pitfalls and detours and challenges. But if you sit still waiting and thinking about all those, you're never going to get anywhere. And so I totally agree that it's the people who then come back next year and like, nothing changed about my taxes, nothing. And they're just frustrated. It's like, well, buddy, I can only help you as much as you're willing to help yourself.
Yeah.
So make the decision.
Yeah. Yeah. The second thing, humility. The humility of understanding, I don't know. And I really need help. And I have not gotten here without having the humility and having people help me. Right. And before you came on board, before Joe came on board, the certain people in my life that were clients, doctors that became friends and business partners because of the humility of me saying, I need your help. In order for me to continue to thrive and help you, I need your help to help me get into that next level. And it's a big lump to swallow for some people. But that humility to realize I need help is the second quality that's very, very important and necessary. And then the third quality, trust. Trust. Now, trust is earned. So we do not recommend anybody to trust us outright. You can believe what we're saying. We will earn your trust, but you need to be willing to provide your trust in this give and take partnership, membership relationship. If you're constantly going through this in a distrustful manner because of previous experiences, your plan will not evolve to what you want. Not our plan, your plan. So you're actually hurting yourself because we want to just jump right in and do everything we possibly can. That's why we do so many videos. That's why we build out membership the way we do, is to put our members in a position to where they can research and educate themselves on information we're talking about. And then have Q&A sessions about that so they can make decisions moving forward. We don't expect them to make a decision. We don't expect them to have humility and trust us outright. We earn it, and that's why we've built out certain things in membership to kind of build that through that process.
That's great. Okay, so talking a bit about vision, where do you see us in 3 to 5 years? What are you most excited about when you look at Terra Firma's future?
Yeah, so some of the things we talk about and our goals is we want to start doing live events. Like live retreat events, not sales events, not, hey, become a member. Those will happen as well. We'll end up having members, hundreds of members a month will join. That will be inevitable. We'll go to some sort of medical association. We'll be a key speaker and we'll have 50 to 200 members join us that weekend. That will happen. But before that, we want to build our membership. We want to build this community and this relationship. And so we want to do these educational retreats for our members so they can dive deeper into some of the things we've talked about in some of these episodes in Wealth Maverick, as well as Asset Coach Tax Strategist. How do I dive deeper into my family? How do I dive deeper into my situation and bring in other third-party experts that will help in that endeavor as a physician? A group of people who understand and acknowledge that your world is stressful, where the average person looks at you and says, oh, they make a lot of money, must be nice, right? No, you've made sacrifices, you've made decisions, you've made choices to get to where you're at. And you should have people that help build you upon that. That's your foundation. Great. Now, how do we build and enhance to get you to the point where you believe your creator made you to be? And that's what we want to do. That's what we want. And we're doing it in our first company retreat. Well, not our first company retreat, but it's our first company retreat where we're bringing our outside partners in to start building. My personal coach is going to be doing sessions. And so we can pour into our team and have different voices and help each other. And that allows us to go out to you as our members and help you and build you up as well. And that's our vision. That is to be able to build a community of hundreds of thousands of doctors throughout the country where they have this camaraderie to be able to go on whatever retreat that's their family thing with friends and colleagues throughout the country that you're like-minded. Yeah. And you don't have to worry about just the hospital or the group you're in. So
not just serving you from a financial perspective. We always say the tax savings is just the tip of the iceberg, but we're here to go all in on serving you as the whole person that you are and enhancing every part of your life. Yeah. So what do you hope Terra Firma is known for, like 10 years from now? People hear Terra Firma, what do they equate it with?
Wow. Well, it won't be tax savings. It won't be because they helped us make money. It will be because they helped me understand who I am. They helped me in my family, my kids, build the relationships that are the most important to me. That human aspect of who we are. Not that you're Dr. So-and-so and we're so-and-so, but that we're two humans, yes, different backgrounds, but we care for each other and we want to build each other up arm in arm. And I think that's what's really missing, unfortunately, in our society and what a lot of our politicians are creating these wedges. And I think, when people look back that, wow, Terra Firma, those were just some really good human beings.
Well, I didn't mean to make you cry today, Bob, but I did. Because I know our listeners can, just like our members and just like our team, can feel the heart behind what you do. And something we always say is, I'm blessed to be here. And I can feel that from you. We are blessed to be here. There are challenges every day with building a business, especially one like this, but it is so worth it. So, Bob, thank you for sharing all that.
Thank you.
Of course. Doc, we hope you enjoyed that. Thank you so much for listening. We hope that if you don't work with us yet, you will at least have a conversation and share this with your friends. Hit subscribe. We can't wait to talk to you again. Thanks for being here. And until next time, go be a wealth maverick.